Good morning. Welcome everybody. Friday morning, talking 4IR, Leigh, 4IR. Yeah, I don't know. Back to the matrix for me. I think it's just part of the machine. Where you plugged in, where you're not plugged in. I don't know. I think it's all an illusion anyway. So yeah, I don't know. What are your thoughts?
I don't know. Well, I'm going to do something a little bit different to what I have done. I'm going to share my screen and just go through a few pictures. And for each of the images, I'm going to read parts of an article that I co-wrote with Trevor Ketler on the fourth industrial revolution. And I thought all it is really is an explanation of each of the various kinds of technology. Obviously, I'm not going to be expansive, and it's not going to be in depth. And some people are going to know more about some of the aspects than others. But I thought it would be good just to kind of lay the foundation of what are we talking about? What are some 4IR technologies? And then set off the discussion that way. So let me share my screen. Making the future today. The first technology, well, let me just first of all just set the scene in terms of what 4IR is. The first industrial revolution used water and steam to mechanize production. The second used electric power to create mass production. The third used electronics and information technology to automate production. The fourth is about the adoption of multiple technologies provided by digitization that blurs the lines between the physical, virtual, and biological spheres. And the phrase fourth industrial revolution was coined by the head of the World Economic Forum, whose name escapes me at the moment. So let me move on. 3D printing. 3D printing allows you to create prototypes, models, and products out of a growing variety of materials. Initially, they were limited to sort of plasticky type materials, and now, honestly, they can 3D print almost any kind of material. Therefore, the cost of prototyping is significantly reduced. Cost savings will also be realized in the production of parts, the reduction of waste, and in the need for storage. It was also highly creative, so you can create one-off items as well as short production. So you don't need a whole manufacturing factory and therefore need scale to justify the cost of the manufacturing. And in fact, you can hire 3D printing off the cloud. So you don't even need a 3D printer. You can just order it and it can print. You can print it for you via the cloud. Entire cars are now entirely 3D printed, as demonstrated at Local Motors International Manufacturing Technology Show in Chicago in 2014. Google has partnered with a company called 3D Systems to develop a modular phone which will allow customized 3D printed personalized features. And Boeing, in just the beginning of 2020, have a plane called the 777X, which completed its long-haul flight, as I say, beginning of January, placing it among the largest twin-engine aircraft in the market. What's particularly exciting about this new aircraft is that its two GE9X engines incorporate more than 300 3D printed parts. And several sizes of components were designed, from temperature sensors to fuel mixers to heat exchangers. So that's 3D printing. Then we have artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is the software engine that is driving the fourth industrial revolution. AI is the development and use of machines to do such things as problem solve, make decisions, and recognize speech and visual input. What AI brings is machine learning, where technology itself can learn and change on its own. This is enabled by the explosion of data. By this year, 2020, it's estimated that every human being on the planet will be creating 1.7 megabytes of new information every second. There will be 50 billion smart connected devices in the world, all developed to collect, analyze, and share data. Why this is essential is that machines learn through data. AI partners with robotics to perform functions and physical tasks previously undertaken by humans. And car manufacturing in particular has heavily invested in these robotics. And that's an ongoing debate in South Africa, is how, because we have a strong car manufacturing industry, is the battle between using robotics versus the labor that's and protecting jobs. So 4IR, so let's now move on to the question of blockchain. And so innovators globally are exploring ways to use blockchain to disrupt and transform traditional business models. Blockchain is the compressing of files comprising blocks of data, with each block being connected to the previous block, forming a chain. And each of those blocks are connected by different people on the web. So it's or different entities on the web. Its usefulness is in the strength of verification it can provide. It is a development of the use of the internet. So it's a completely different way of working with the internet than what we currently understand. There's the technological use of the internet that is bound to change the way we currently transfer ownership, money, and any number of other transactions, because you can trace the origin of each of those things. Previously, we needed lawyers to verify ownership. We needed a paper chain or paper trail to be able to verify certain transactions. We can do that all now through blockchain. And each stage is verified by somebody different, or some different process in the blockchain. So blockchain enables companies to be more efficient, transparent, and creating trust through a shared record of ownership, location, and movement of parts and goods. You get a history of activity. A regular database gives a snapshot of up-to-date data in real time. Blockchains maintain a record of all the information that existed before, like a database with history. There is no one central point of attack. Blockchain is a decentralized way of storing and accessing data, making the whole system secure. Unlike a centralized database, there's no one single point of entry for hackers, allowing a secure way of recording transactions. As the system of record is decentralized and replicated entirely in its entirety in multiple places, there is no need for a central administrator, saving companies the costs and infrastructure that comes with it. Then the Internet of Things. The Internet of Things refers to physical objects being connected to the internet, collecting and sharing data. Anything from a light switch to a machine part, basically anything that can be fitted with a sensor can be part of the Internet of Things. And this refers also to even we're starting to use sensors for the body as well. So we can fit sensors into how well you might be, how hard your heart is working, or your blood pressure, all those kinds of things. Juniper Research predicts that the number of Internet of Things so I'm just going to use IoT as the abbreviation for Internet of Things. Connected devices, the IoT, the number of IoT connected devices will increase by 285%, reaching 38.5 billion in 2020, up from 13.4 billion 5 years before. What enables this proliferation is the availability of processors, which are tags, that are low power chips that can communicate wirelessly, and the increasing availability of broadband internet and cellular and wireless networking, and as well as new advancements in miniaturization and materials such as graphene. As the IoT advances, the clear dividing line between the real and the virtual becomes blurred, and the digital and physical worlds effectively become merged. And then I want to move on to virtual and augmented reality. Virtual reality makes use of 3D modeling and visualization techniques as part of the design process. It makes use of high-end graphics, video with fast refresh rate, and realistic sound and movement. As a consumer, imagine using your smartphone to log into a car manufacturer's website to view their latest model. You can use augmented reality, so virtual reality, they would use, you step into a completely different world, and you can use that to even do training. They're using a lot of virtual reality to do training or simulations. And now the augmented reality is you creating a model through which you can walk. So you can walk through a mall, for example, through augmented reality, and shop virtually through these various shops. And it would be the same, for example, if you're designing a house. They do this a lot at a lot of house designers use it. And we're using the example here of a car. As a consumer, imagine using your smartphone to log into a car manufacturer's website to view their latest model. Using augmented reality, you get to view the car from all directions, even underneath. You open the door and get a view inside the car from the driver's position. You press the buttons and experience window wipers, seat position, even flip the bonnet to view the engine, and the list is endless. This technology has made it possible to purchase more online. And then the last one that I want to just highlight is self or assisted driving cars. And I just checked now, there are almost 4.8 million electric vehicles in use globally in 2019. About 1.5 new battery electric vehicles were added to the worldwide fleet in 2019, which might be a drop in the ocean compared to the number of cars generally, but the increase is exponential. In the United States, UK, and Germany, governments have already given the green light for driverless cars to be on the road by as early as 2021. That is not to say that driverless vehicles are not already in use in such places as mines and large manufacturing operations. The question going into the future then is, if cars are not used for driving, what will the impact be on our time, work, and lifestyle? And one such example is, what about mass transport in general? Trains, buses, and even short distance airplane flights. Is it not going to be more convenient, time-saving, and cheaper to hire a driverless car that will get you point to point, especially if you can do work, socialize with friends, or even sleep on the journey? So those are some examples of fourth industrial revolution technologies. I sort of whizzed through it just to give you an overview. And I'd love to hear, so what do you think this is, what impact is this going to have on our lives? How do you think we can incorporate this thinking about these as tools that we can take advantage of going forward.
Sure, thanks, Leigh. What a way to start Friday morning. Eh? Into some serious tech here. So yeah, it's for me, it's a fascinating topic. I don't know about anyone else, but yeah, let's get across to the youngster in the group and see how he thinks his world is changing. So Herman, across to you.
You know, when that topic came up yesterday, I thought, besides starting to understand what 4IR is about, it is not really relevant for me, because I actually work right now in an industry or in a economic domain which is pre-industrial, namely agriculture. But when I then reflected on what I'm doing and whom I'm connecting with and the way we are going about developing our concepts and working them, I realized that actually I'm fully engaged in the new technology. To give you an example, one of our partners is Agricultures International in Zanin. They are one of the leading training providers, completely digital. They actually have been named by a European organization as one of the most inspiring digital innovations of the year. So, and as I said, they have no brick and mortar kind of setups. It's completely online. The moment you've got a smartphone, you can get trained in whatever topic you are interested in with regards to agriculture. I'm also involved with a group that works across Africa, and our meetings wouldn't be possible without Zoom. So we're talking really 21st century. And I only became aware that we, by combining the old and the new, will we possibly create a kind of productivity in agriculture, which we weren't aware, or which we didn't think possible even 10, 15 years ago. Thank you.
Thanks, Herman. Yeah, it's becoming pervasive, this technology. It's affecting everything and everyone everywhere, I think. So it gets really interesting. So Jasper, how's it affecting your fireside chat this morning?
Well, thanks to Leigh, now I understand fourth industrial revolution better. It's always better to see the pictures and stuff. And I think even with that kind of explanation, we can't really imagine how it will impact our lives when these things become the norm. So even if a year ago you would introduce people to Zoom or the concept of it, they wouldn't have imagined how people would now almost spend the whole day just in Zoom meetings, zooming around the world. Now I can think with virtual reality, which fascinates me. It will just enhance that experience. I personally look forward to almost doing these virtual travels. And I know, Leigh, you said part of your thing is almost this, what is it, a dream book or dream chart of traveling. But I can imagine you just, you feel like an escape, and you just put on the goggles and you're on an island, and you have this virtual reality experience. So I can really see that. Driverless cars, I'm not sure. It'll take, I will have to get quite a few people test driving it first before I would feel safe in something like that. But I mean, in the end, you'll probably adjust. And I mean, what's true for cars will become true for some of the science literature I'm following are already experimenting with driverless taxis, air taxis, which come and pick you up and drop you. So you really have to trust the machines, and trust that there are no serious hackers out there that can hack the technology and mess up your life. I can see the value of 3D printing a lot, especially when people start going to Mars and places like that, and you can't take a whole lot of equipment with you. But if you have the blueprints and the basic material, then you can print whatever is needed. I think, yeah, the new generation will probably just grow up with these kind of new interventions and accept it. But for us, it will be some adjustment to now think of 3D printed food. And I mean that one article that Ivan referred to in terms of vegan food that's supposed to taste like steak. So yeah, I think it's scary how fast things develop and the interactivity of things. And then you add the conspiracy theory of the people now with these vaccines so that they can trace you wherever you are. I think it can be a whole debate on itself. Is it good or is it bad? I think the reality is it's unstoppable. So there's nothing you can do about it. You just need to get in front of it to say, how do I now utilize it to the best of my ability and for the maximum benefit?
Thanks, Jasper. Yeah, it's interesting. Are you going to be an earlier adopter? Are you going to sit back and wait and see? So yeah, I'm not sure. So yeah, Ed, let's get across to you.
I'm extremely grateful to Leigh because she's made me feel really comfortable with how old I am, because I'll be checking out of here soon, and I'm really glad about that. I thought it very interesting and a very succinct presentation. One thing that really came through to me was the question about the impact on our time and lifestyles. And also the one thing that was missing for me was the thing that's had the biggest impact on our lifestyles. And that's really things like vaccines, the sort of the technology there that's allowed us to vaccinate people, because, you know, vaccines have done away with polio, they've done away with smallpox, they've controlled measles, and they'll be the answer to COVID. But then that started me thinking about, well, actually, if I was sitting in the Democratic Republic of Congo, I would have an entirely different view, because actually they haven't done any good there at all, because those diseases are still prevalent. And that made me start thinking about the morality of technology. And then I started thinking about drones. Now, there's a guy I know in Cornwall, he's got a drone, and you'll take a beautiful video of your house and your gardens, and then you can show it on the internet, and people will buy your house because it looks lovely. So there's a nice use of a drone. If you're sitting in the Middle East and you've just seen someone killed by a US drone, then you've got a completely different view of drones. And then I was thinking about this thing about the impact on our time and lifestyle. And are we any better off today? How many hours do we work today compared to how many hours we worked 50 years ago? Has technology actually improved a lot of ordinary people? Yes, there's some people who've exploited technology quite nicely, but there's still the rest of us in that hamster wheel, slaving our guts out 5 days a week, 40 hours a week, just to put food on the table. So I kind of think, well, technology's done nothing really to solve the human problem. We might have machine learning, we don't have humanity learning, because we make the same mistakes time over time over time by misusing technology. And I think also we give technology a power it hasn't got, because the biggest crisis I think facing us is climate change. And we think technology is going to be the solution, and it's not. Behavioral change will be the solution. The technology might help us with one or two bits and pieces, but if we keep on the way we are, technology will not solve climate change. So I'd like to really think about, for another edition, maybe the morality of technology, because that avoids me having to talk about the specifics because I don't know much about new technology. That's my thoughts.
Great, thanks, Ed. Yeah, I think it brings us back to our toolbox discussion of the other day, as the morality comes down to the wielder of the tool, not necessarily the tool itself. So yeah, I think that's where things can get interesting. But yeah, Cecile, let's come across to you next.
Yes, I also want to say thanks a lot, Leigh, because I was going to say this morning, I know really nothing what 4IR means. And that was a fantastic summary of that. Just a few comments on that, where you were saying about chips that are put into people. We've got a friend that he does karate with me. He had a heart operation a few years ago, and he told us last week that they put some chip in his heart, and the week before, they phoned him one morning, and they said to him, Ronnie, your heart beat dropped to 30 beats a second in the night, and it stopped for something like 30 seconds as well. You must just watch out. Are you feeling bad? Whatever. Oh yes, he had COVID as well. So he didn't feel bad. And last week the same thing happened. They phoned him in the morning and they said, we detected that your heart stopped beating in the night. So he had to go into Sunning Hill last week, and they had to shock his heart to get back into rhythm. So that's just a little chip that's in his heart that regulates his heartbeat. It's not a pacemaker or anything, it's just a chip. That's the one thing. And the second thing is my brother has a chopper company, and their main work is to be maintaining the all the power lines, the big power lines with the choppers. So they drop the guys on the lines, the live wire guys, they drop them on the lines and then they fix the lines. But he now has drones that are doing the same job. So it saves a lot on the technology for needing the chopper pilot, because it's extreme specialized flying to be the chopper pilot, because you've got to hover while these live wire guys are dangling down on the live wire lines and then fix the lines. But the drones are now doing those jobs. And Ed, yes, when you were saying about are we working, how invasive is it in our lives? None of us have lives anymore. Our parents used to go to work. They used to go to work at 8 o'clock or whatever, come back at 4, 5 o'clock, and they were home. They didn't bring work home with them. But our children, I think all our children can attest to that. We are always working. We are never not working. So the kids today grow up with parents that are always busy working. We've got one of our friends, during this time he had to help his grade 1 child homeschool. And it's a clever child, but the kid, him and the kid have fights all the time, grade 1. Because he says, Luke doesn't concentrate. So I say, are you on your phone in this time that you're trying to help your child with homework? He says, yeah, because the phone doesn't stop. So I say, exactly. Do you think the child is going to concentrate if he sees you all the time not concentrating on helping him? So all of us are multitasking all the time, and I'm not even sure if we're getting any better. That's my thoughts.
Thanks, Cecile. All right, Una, let's hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I think on the one hand, it's amazing what we can come up with as a human race, but I just think that we are not ready. I think for most, if you look at all the social problems that we are not even properly addressing, I don't think that there's enough integration between where AI is going and where people are in their minds in terms of this development, and taking everybody along in a way that's collaborative and good for everyone. So I'm sure it can solve many problems. For me personally, it sometimes feels that it's just going too fast and it's running away with us. And maybe we'll catch up. I don't know, but I think it's going to, the dividing lines between people and the haves and the have-nots are just going to get greater, and some are going to be left behind and others not. And I don't know what's, maybe, you know, I don't know how it will all, we can't see into the future, so we don't know how that will develop. It for me, that's a concern. The human aspect, I think, is not always included in the conversation.
Thanks. So, yeah, look, I think at some levels it definitely is. And if you look at Trevor will probably remember what it is, but Peter Diamandis' X project, I think it is, where, you know, they're driving massive innovation products which are specifically focused on improving quality of life across the planet. There's a lot of effort going in certain areas, so it's always a challenge. There's always a balance, I suppose, that needs to be found. But I'd like to hear from our Bentley driver how he'd like to be driven around in his Bentley by a drone instead of driving it himself after spending all that money on his car. So Trevor Carty, across to you.
You know, I'm just reflecting on this platform that you guys have created here. It's I'm so sorry that I haven't clocked in from day one, because I don't know if we haven't just underestimated the power of this word wisdoms. So, you know, I want to just tell you, I only know a thing called 5PHR. Leigh, that was spectacular. Now I know exactly. I mean, I've been making copious notes here, just so that I can really upset my children when they come visit me this weekend, when I show them how clever I am, and when I 3D print them their eggs, they're going to absolutely crap themselves. But, you know, I think at the end of the day, personal human relationships, it doesn't matter, but look at our technology today. So this is how we have our personal human relationships, and yet all of this is driven by some sort of technology. Whether it was you know, my first thing that really had me bamboozled was a fax machine. Now Zoom confuses me. I mean, how does this work? How can I have a picture of all these people on my computer? They're all over the world. Some people even having this translated. You guys can't see them because I've got another thing here. It's called the back-end integrator, which is allowing me to duplicate wisdoms in Japan, China, and India, for which I have a subscriber base currently of 28,111,000. And they just look at me, and I'm talking Chinese, I'm talking Japanese. It's incredible. So yeah, guys, I'm in awe of this week. Trevor, you'll be happy to know I ran early every day this week. You know, I've even got my, in case we have to get compliant here on these wisdoms chats. I'm never sure government might be watching us as well. Actually, I know they are. They've just sent me a, there you are. Leigh wants to share in my $1 subscription a month. That's all we got to do, guys. Collect $1 from the billions and we're done. So, you know, at the end of the day, Herman, you're right. Agriculture, we got to keep growing chickens. That vegan steak, I'm definitely not even trying it. And yeah, I'm going to go and try and work out this weekend how I use virtual reality and augmented reality not to be here while I'm taking time off to go and walk in the bush next week. Because at the end of the day, I want to be younger next year. That's my objective. My objective is to be younger next year. And I'm not convinced technology allows me to do that, but it does allow me to pretend that I'm in places when I'm not. So with that being said, I think what I might just do is pop out quickly and go and see what's happening in San Francisco.
Thanks, Trevor. Yeah, and my invoice is in the mail, so you'll get it.
You should put it in the female. It's much quicker.
Yeah, let's not go down that route. That gets a bit dangerous. But anyway, yeah, they also now creating steaks out of stem cells, believe it, in the lab as well. So you can imagine producing a whole bunch of real steaks in the lab to feed the world instead of having to grow cattle all over the place and feed them first. So very interesting tech that's happening at the moment. So Mpumelelo, let's get across to you.
Good morning. Very interesting subject. I guess for me, it always goes back to the issue of human beings, because I guess I tend to be very people oriented. And you know, Leigh, as you're going on about the advances that men are doing in technology, it's absolutely amazing. And I keep thinking to myself in the same breath, if people would work on themselves as well as they do in the technology, if we could advance in our humanity, in the kind of people we are, as much as we do with the technology, I think it would be an amazing, amazing, amazing world. Again, I guess, like we said, it is a tool. It depends on whoever is using it and for what end, and that's where it either becomes good or bad. But again, it's linked to human beings. Something I tend to share with my wife a lot is that I find it fascinating that human beings, instead of fixing themselves, they'll rather fix what's external. And that for me has always been a fascinating thing. We just shy away from fixing what we do wrong and want to change what's outside, want to change others, but not ourselves. Again, the question of what impact will it have in the future, I guess it helps a little bit to see what impact it already has and see if that's the direction things will take and if it's going to grow exponentially. I've been reading an interesting book of late, and they've done a research. Obviously, I'm a researcher, so everything has to go down to research. They have researched what has been the impact of technology in terms of productivity. Are we more productive? Are we doing better than we have before? What they've found is that the investment into technology in terms of thousands and thousands of dollars does not equate to the return. So the return is too small for the amount of money that has gone into it. And what they've picked up is that technology does not necessarily solve a problem, it displaces it. It moves it to something else. And that for me was quite fascinating. Another thing that they go into is that what they've found is, as much as technology displaces jobs into other new types of jobs, the new jobs that technology creates is not as many as the jobs that it has displaced. So if 5 people were doing a certain job and the technology comes in and creates a new type of work, the new type of work created can only absorb 2 people. And this, it looks like will continue into the future. Even if you're white collar, there will come a time where technology just can only absorb so many white collar jobs or so many intelligent executives and things like that. So for me, those are some of the interesting things. Last one, not to take too long. I also worry about the value chain. All these technological advances, what do they mean for raw material? The advent of cell phone created a terrible situation for the Congo, because they are the only one of the 2 countries that have one raw material that you use to create a phone. You only find it in Congo and you find it in Brazil, but 90% of it is in Congo. And the impact that it has had on that community, probably their lives would have been better if a cell phone was never invented. I'll leave it at that.
Thanks, Mpumelelo. I think all of our lives would have been better if cell phones had never been invented. Then we wouldn't have all these distractions, hey, Cecile? So, right, Trevor, let's get across to you.
So I just found the off button and it works very well for me. Right, so quite interesting, the different opinions here. I just think people concerned about the technology are ignoring the fact that it's this that created all the technology, and it is this that we need to apply to actually utilizing that technology to the benefit of humanity. And I love the fact that you put there Diamandis's X Prize and what he's doing
and the positive approach that he actually takes to researching and identifying how technology can be used to the benefit of mankind. So I disagree with Ed, please. I just want to stick around for another 200 years just to see what happens here. And then when I get there, I hope I can do a little bit more trail running to see where we're going. There's something that I also wanted to bring up here. Let me see if I can share the screen because that stimulated me yesterday. The blockchain technology to prevent corruption in COVID-19 response. It's a worldwide thing. And this article, when you go into it, really gets into, just go and research blockchain technology 2020 latest trends and find how they're using the technology to prevent corruption. But the interesting thing about this article also relates back to my experience about 3-4 years ago working with guys who came to talk about blockchain at the chamber. And I took them all aside and I said, okay, guys, if you can show me what's great about your technology, I've got this here. If we work together, we can make things happen. And I worked with them for about a year, and all of their smarts and all of their knowledge and working with all the institutions, at the end of this article, they'll tell you that they haven't solved the problem of protecting and verifying technologies. So all of these skilled people talking about this still haven't come up with a solution. But to me, that's not a problem because Mark Shuttleworth, when the Americans would not allow encryption coding at the end of the 1990s, he was sitting here in Cape Town and he came up with an encryption coding that the Americans could have done simply, and he made billions. I think he sold it for 4 billion rand at the time. It could have been $4 billion. And that's the opportunity that we have sitting here if we keep our eyes open. And I was going to put there a question, Leigh. So what's the question? And for me, the question is, hey, how can we make good money out of this opportunity that allows us to do the things that we want to do? I want to go and play with Trevor Carty. I want to play golf with Trevor Carty. I don't want to play with Trevor Carty on his island. We just want the time to think so that we can apply it to doing things that make us happy and perhaps changing humanity. I'm going to stop sharing here. I'm just so excited about the technology. What I'm not excited about is that we are not putting it to the sort of use that we've just put Zoom to in the last 150 days. Why didn't we get onto Zoom 3-4 years ago? I'm annoyed.
I'll tell you why, Trevor, because only 3-4 years ago, I got you into a cell phone. So to get you onto Zoom at the same time,
I've just discovered how to switch it off. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm still struggling to get you to work that one properly. So we'll have to take that in a different direction, a different discussion. Yeah, I think just from my side, very, very quickly to wrap up, picking up on something that Ed said and also that Cecile said, just on 30 years ago, my newly born daughter had open heart surgery at the age of 10 months, and if it wasn't for technology, she wouldn't have survived. Today, they probably could have done that fairly shortly after she was born. She wouldn't have needed to wait for that 10 months and struggle through that process of getting to be big enough to be able to be operated on, because now they can do it with a chip instead of cutting open the chest and putting in a Teflon patch into the heart. So you've really got to look at how the tools are being applied and where they're being applied. And I completely disagree with you, Ed. I think if technology goes the way it can go, you'll have a lot more trails, forests will be regenerated, places will be made wild again, because we'll be bringing down the scale of production and manufacture into technological solutions that will bring out higher volumes and higher quality and much simpler with much lower impact on the environment and the planet. So I think if it's done right, it's all beneficial, but that's the caveat if it's done right. So Leigh, over to you to wrap up very quickly and tell us what's on the cards for Monday.
Well, let's continue the discussion. I think it doesn't have to, but what can we what do we need to learn? How do we change with changing technology? You know, I think I'm hearing some resistance to the changes, and it connects a little bit with what Ed was saying. Can we talk about fear? You know, this thing of you know, he was using it in the context of I've written something and I've now offered it, and there was this sort of unexpected anxiety or fear around it. And so I'm just sort of connecting these things. Is what is it about the unknown or something that we're not sure of or feel is out of our control that we're afraid of? But I think it's also looking at, you know, how can we flip that? How can we see the opportunities? Where is there abundance? Where we at the moment we're seeing lack and more of the worst. How can we turn that around and say, how can we make more of the best? So that's what let's play with that tomorrow on Monday.
Great, fantastic, Leigh. Thanks so much. Thanks everyone. Enjoy your weekends. Go and run the trails there before they run out. Otherwise, have a great weekend, and we'll see you Monday morning. Go well. Cheers.